I'm Mike Wallace.
I'm Morley Safer.
I'm Harry Reasoner.
Hello there. This is your furry pal, Grover.
I'm Ed Bradley.
I'm Diane Sawyer. Those stories and more tonight on 60 Minutes.
Hello and welcome to tonight's edition of 60 Minutes. My name is Diane Sawyer and we're here with a special guest, Primal Yoda. Yoda, how are you?
Thank you, Diane.
So, I think the question everybody wants to know is, what happened to you? When did your life take an unexpected turn?
Well, it is hard to say. But I think it all began, shortly after Anakin's death. I took it quite difficultly.
As most would.
Not having the support that I had always known Anakin to offer me there when I needed it most in his time of death. I believe it drove me off a cliff of sorts.
And what happened when you lost that support? Is like that when the drugs came in, or was that the wife? Like, what happened?
Well, I would definitely say what started it all was the drugs. I had prior to joining Lucasfilms for their recording of the Star Wars series, I had struggled quite a bit with a serious opioid addiction. I had chronic pain in my backs and legs that I just could no longer deal with, and so I contacted my doctor, and he prescribed me opioids. And like so many, I abused these opioids until eventually I was taken to a drug therapy for which I was recovering from the addiction for roughly 3 to 4 years.
And did the addiction come back, or were you able to stay clean?
For a time, I was able to avoid the temptation of, all these drugs, but after Anakin's death, I feel like the pain spoke for me, and I just wanted it to stop, and so I turned back to my old ways, and I came off of my clean break from opioids.
And when the addiction came back, did that put stress on your relationship with your wife and your kids? Like, you have a family.
Well, for the longest time, my family was unaware of what was going on. I kept the drugs separate from my private life. My wife had been aware that I was once a substance abuser, but no longer, and I struggled to keep it a secret from her for as long as I could.
And, keeping secrets is never good in a relationship, so I assume, like, you had to come clean sooner or later.
That I did. It was actually not my wife. My wife was not the first one who found out about my addiction. Rather, it was my dear friend, Darth Vader, who found out. And, we had many a conversation about it. Darth tried to be as understanding as he could be because he too once struggled with an addiction, except his was heroin, whereas mine was simply painkillers.
And did his relation to, like, your addiction make your relationship, like, stronger, your bond that you had with Vader?
Yes, I would say, Vader and I have always been very close, very, very close. Even in our roles in the Star Wars movies, we did not let that get between us as friends. So I believe that sharing in that mutual bond made the mutual struggle made us stronger, not just as people, but as friends.
So, you insist that you and Vader were friends. You've been saying friends a lot, but did your relationship ever go past friends? Because the rumors are out there. And, would you like to elaborate on that at all tonight?
Yes.
Or are the rumors not true?
Um. Well, you see, Diane. Um. During this time period, it was Vader who convinced me to talk about it with my wife, and of
Mm-hmm.
course, I did not. My wife continued to be in the dark about it for several years, but
The
at the
dark side.
time, Vader was currently, as was I, we were out of work. We were unemployed after our subsequent deaths in the early Lucasfilms, and
Mm-hmm.
Vader was trying hard to get by. He ran a service, an illicit prostitution service, and that was how he was getting by. The state he did it in was legal. He had the licenses and everything. The waivers were signed, and that was how he got by. I, on the other hand, was still looking for work. Very difficult with my struggling addiction. And so,
Mm-hmm.
one night, I approached Vader about it, and I was ranting to him, saying how I could not find a job, and my wife was mad with me, and the kids were very angry and suffering as a result of my incompetence. And Vader, the kind man that he is, extended a position to me at his facility where I would be a
Mm-hmm.
financial manager. So I would be in charge of payroll and hours and closing in the evenings.
Mm-hmm. You do kind of look like an accountant. You are green like money. So,
I actually, funny story. I graduated from college with a degree in finances. The only
oh,
thing stopping me from going into the workforce was my acting career taking off.
that's interesting. I did not know you graduated with that because you are known for being an actor in the Star Wars movies. So, you were the accountant at what was this place called?
Um, it was known as the Death Star. Very
The Death
famously after the little planetoid in the Star Wars movies.
Star. Okay, so at the Death Star, you were just an accountant, or did you do anything else there, or are you just the accountant?
Well, most of the time I was serving out paychecks and whatnot. Um, Not really much else to do when all you're doing is counting money.
Mm-hmm.
Over time though, my wife was happy with the financial situation. She was comfortable in the fact that I wasn't doing anything more than counting money. Um, After a while, Darth approached me, saying, he wanted to, promote, promote me.
There's a promotion above the accountant. I thought that was kind of like a base job. How did he promote you?
Well, one evening he approached me and he said, "You know, Yoda, we're running short on staff. There's a new brothel across town, arguing about better prices. So, I don't know if you want to just consider it, but I was considering extending you a second job as a new prostitute."
And you accepted this job?
Yes.
Interesting. I couldn't ever see you doing that, but how was the experience?
I never saw myself doing such a job myself. It was always one of those things that we laughed about in college, saying, "Oh, well, push come to shove, I guess I'll just become a stripper," that sort of thing. But the
Mm-hmm.
experience was actually quite eye opening for me. I have never felt so comfortable in my sexuality.
Well, I'm glad that was a good experience for you. So, after the promotion, did you just stay accountant and prostitute, or did you leave and continue acting?
Yes, well, I continued looking for work as an actor, but few places wanted to hire me. And it also was troubling that I had a contract with Disney that prevented my face from being pasted to basically any other franchise. So I was in a tight situation as far as acting goes. But, I did stay as an accountant and as a prostitute. Vader was very generous in the pay raises he gave us. He treated us very well. Um, all of our insurance plans were under him. Life was good.
Yeah, that sounds great. Um, do you have any other experiences you want to share with us tonight?
Well, um, I I recall briefly touching on the topic of sexuality. Uh,
Would you like to explain how you explored that through prostitution?
well, one evening, Vader called me into his office. We were doing very well. It was a very successful day. I believe it was February 14th of 2016.
Oh, Valentine's Day.
Yes, yes. So we were expecting an influx of customers either way.
Mhm.
So he called me into his office that evening. I was just wrapping up the finances for the week. And he told me a personal story about how he realized he was bisexual and explaining that he was divorcing his wife because she was less than understanding about it.
That's terrible for Vader.
I agreed.
But
I
you
said
guys are
I didn't know what it was like to be in his shoes, but I would always support him. And he asked me a very personal question and said, Yoda, have you ever considered that you might be gay?
and did you consider it before that point?
I'd never really thought about it. My entire life, I had gone thinking, I am heterosexual as fuck.
As some people do.
Well, he got me thinking, and I sat down, and he poured us both a tequila, and
Mhm.
I told him, you know, Vader, my good friend, I have never considered that. I have been straight for the last 428 years, but you know what? There's always tomorrow.
Always tomorrow. And what did he say about that?
He said, well, maybe tomorrow will be the day you realize that you're gay. And I thought, that's kind of ominous, not gonna lie. But
Kind of
I raised
cryptic,
my
yeah.
glass and I said, cheers, my friend. I will drink to that.
And the next day, were you gay or were you still, straight?
Well, funny story actually.
Funny story.
Yes,
Well, we're all here for stories today. Explain your life to us. We're here to hear that.
the next day, Vader called me to his office again,
Mhm.
and he asked me, Yoda, I will be honest with you. You are the reason that I realized I was bisexual. And I was
Wow.
shocked. I was taken aback.
That is shocking.
I could never imagine I was the reason someone was not straight. Especially
Mhm.
in my climbing age.
Mhm.
But it got me thinking, and I thought, you know, Vader, I, I, I've never considered being with a man. But perhaps today is the day I change that.
And you changed it. Did you go off with a random man or was it somebody you knew?
Well, Diane, Vader and I, we slept together in his
Mhm.
office, right there,
Oh.
and then.
Oh. Would you like to describe in, perfect detail how that experience went?
Well,
Well,
I won't get too graphic, But all I'll say, um, he's well endowed, and he was very satisfying to be with.
Great.
He most certainly turned me gay.
You are officially turned gay.
Yes.
Wow.
I suppose I always was. I just never realized it.
How many kids did you have before, like,
Well,
how many kids do you have, Yoda?
my wife and I currently have 2 children. The
You
oldest
have
is
two
11 and the youngest
children.
is 6.
Wow, that must have came to a shock to your family. I mean, you had a wife and 2 kids, and then all of a sudden, you're gay?
It was
That must have
quite a
been.
shock. I
Hmm.
contemplated how I was going to explain this to them, and I deduced that there really was no right or wrong way to do it. But the shame I felt knowing that I could ruin the lives of 2 children and my wife, who had been married to for 200 years,
Wow, that's a long time.
it prevented me from saying anything for a long time. And of course, that added to the struggle that I was still undergoing with the opioids.
Yeah.
And so
So you had the struggle of sexuality and drugs in your life and keeping everything a secret. That seems rough.
indeed it was, Diane. So much so that I began sinking further. Even though I was making good money now and I had a job and I was comfortable, I still had so many stresses that simply opioids could not suppress the pain any longer. I
Hmm.
turned to harder drugs.
Really?
Yes,
What did you turn to?
heroin,
Heroin.
um, crocodile at some point for a very brief period, methamphetamine. Um,
Hmm.
I had a cool meth dealer by the name of Ruggy at some point. We used to call him Ravioli Man. Um,
Hmm.
unfortunately, unfortunately, he is no longer with us. Rest in peace, my homeboy, Ruggy.
He passed away, your drug dealer?
Yes,
What happened? Do you know exactly? Or was it just kind of like got shot in the streets? Because you know how that stuff is.
many suspected it was a drug overdose, but in
Oh,
reality, Vader had known him. Vader, he used to be Vader's dealer too, and Vader confirmed to
Vader
me
did
that
heroin as well?
Vader did heroin for a while. He
Hmm.
he had his own struggles, and he confirmed to me that Ruggy's death was a suicide because he had been going through things with his daughter, and um long story short, she disowned him, and he couldn't live with himself anymore.
Hmm. That's terrible. Well, rest in peace, Ruggy. But did it ever occur to you, like there are different outlets for help besides, drugs and, prostitution could have been an outlet for you at the time. Maybe you didn't realize it. But there's like help for those things.
I did. As a matter of fact, um, at some point, I it all came to a head when my wife found out everything that was going on. She found out from a note that Vader had slipped in with my last check when it came in the mail, and she confronted me and she told me, "Why are you doing this and this and this?" And basically, we sat down and we had a very long talk about everything that was happening.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very difficult time for everyone in the house. Um, my daughter and my son eavesdropped on the conversation, and there was talk of a divorce unless I would go back to a help organization to control my addictions.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is what I did. I reached out, I contacted Narcotics Anonymous, and we
And
sought
were you
help through
able
marriage counseling.
Mm-hmm. though you had marriage counseling, you were also, gay. So how did that work out exactly? Like, you were still gay in like marriage counseling, but like you're not attracted to your wife.
Well, there was a solution there. The marriage counselor determined yes, we were unsuitable to stay together, and we sought common ground, and it was decided that we, despite our differences, would stay together. Not because we loved each other, although I still do love her very much. My wife has been there and seen me at my worst and supported me at my best. But
Mm-hmm.
we decided it would only be good for both of us to stay together until our children were old enough.
Ah, I understand. So are you and your wife still together right now? Currently? Everything's been okay now that you've been through counseling?
For the most part, yes, yes. We still manage the household together. We still cooperate and function normally, although there are aspects of our marriage that are never the same. Communication. She can't look at me anymore.
That must be hard on you.
It is, it
This
is.
swear to God. So, once Vader found out you went to counseling and stuff, did he have any feelings about this?
Vader was very supportive of it. He said he wouldn't want me to be in a place where I was unhappy, and he apologized for any issues that he might have caused in our relationship. And I told him it's not your fault. It was mine for not realizing sooner that my relationship had faults and that I had faults that I was unaware of and not realizing who I was sooner.
Oh, well, that's very inspirational. So, I'm glad you're getting help, and I'm glad you were able to share your story with us today. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
I would like to formally inform the audience of just one thing.
Okay, go ahead.
Audience, if you are in a bad place, never ever turn to drugs. They will mess you up. They will mess your family up. They will destroy your life in ways that may not be repairable. I'm lucky and thankful that what happened to me was able to be corrected before I sunk in too deep. But there are many who are not as lucky as I am. There are many who suffer far worse than I ever will. And I want you to know, before you go down that path, think about it. Are the drugs really worth your life and you as a person? There is always hope and help. And I hope that any of you out there struggling or considering struggling will hear my story and realize there is hope.
Thank you for the inspirational message. Everyone, thank you for watching tonight's very special episode of 60 Minutes. My name is Diane Sawyer, and that's it. The show is over now.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
I'm Mike Wallace.
I'm Morley Safer.
I'm Harry Reasoner.
Hello there. This is your furry pal Grover.
I'm Ed Bradley.
I'm Diane Sawyer. Those stories and more tonight on 60 Minutes.